All right, let's wrap this up with going back over something we did a little bit in 1.5, but it was challenging, so I think it would be great to look at it again here. We are going to look first at a graph of f prime and use it to answer questions about f, and then at a graph of f double prime and use it to answer questions about f. First question is, what are the critical values of f? And remember that f has critical values if f prime is equal to 0 or undefined. So if I'm looking at this graph of f prime, I can tell that it is equal to 0 at 1 and at 3 and at 5. I don't see anything that I would call undefined. So critical values happen at x equals 1, 3, and 5. For what values of x is the function increasing or decreasing? So increasing is f prime greater than 0, and decreasing is f prime less than 0. Here I'm going to color code. So we'll start with greater than 0. This is the greater than 0 piece. So increasing happens, should I assume that's the whole graph? I think it probably continues. But we'll say a dead end. So we'll say from, what is that, x equals 0 to x equals 1, the graph is increasing. And then decreasing is f prime less than 0, and that is true from x equals 1 to 3, and from x equals 3 to 5. Okay, local maxima and then local minima. Okay, so what do we have going on here? We have increasing function, flat spot, decreasing function. So if we think about how that traces out on f, increasing, flat, decreasing, that is a maximum. And then I don't see anywhere else where the function switches from increasing to decreasing, so I think that's the only one. So yes, at x equals 1. For a minimum, we'd have to switch from decreasing to increasing, and I do see decreasing, but it goes decreasing, flat, and then it decreases again, and then flat. So I think it's a no. I don't see any local minima. When is f concave up or concave down? So remember that one of the ways to say concave up to yourself is slopes are getting bigger, and this graph is slopes. That's what it is. So whenever this graph is getting bigger or increasing, so let's see, concave up, that happens when f prime is increasing. And concave down will be when f prime is decreasing. So I think I'm seeing two increasing segments. Concave up happens from about 2 to 3, and then again from 4 to 5. What color have I not used? Concave down means f prime is decreasing. So that's going to be from 0 to 2, and then from 3 to 4. All right, and then last question, does f have any inflection points? So if concave up is increasing and concave down is decreasing, anywhere it switches from one to the other could be an inflection point, would be an inflection point. So those, and we listed it earlier, but we can say it again here, those are going to be the local maximums and minimums of f primes. So this is going to be local extrema of f prime. Okay, so that happens at x equals 2, 3, 4, and depending on how you're reading this graph, if you think it keeps going, possibly at 2 and 5, but I'm going to leave those off because we aren't told what it's doing, so I'm not going to make assumptions. It looks like it flattens out, but I don't know if it turns around. Okay, same idea, but now we're thinking this is f double prime. Notice there's not as many questions because you can't get as much from a graph of f double prime that tells you directly what's going on with f prime, but there is a nice concavity relationship. So f is concave up if F double prime is positive. So that is going to be all of this. So what is that? Maybe like 1.4 to 4.7, roughly. And then concave down, it's definitely color code since I wrote underneath the concave down. So that would be anywhere where F double prime is negative, which are going to be the outside parts of the graph. So everything from 0 to 1.4, that should line up with down below. And then everything from 4.7 to 5. So putting that together, does F have any inflection points? Absolutely, it's at the two cutoffs, right? So at 1.4 and at 4.7. So yes, X equals 1.4 and 4.7. All right, so again, just more practice with that. I figured a run through and a reminder wouldn't hurt. Thanks for watching all these videos for 3.1.